Welcome to the iHemp Hour. My name's Dave Craybill. I'm with iHemp Michigan. iHemp Michigan's mission is to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp. iHemp in Michigan advocates for wellness in people and the planet, and it begins with the farmer. Blaine Bechtold, let's start with you. I know
Hey everybody. Hey everybody. Hope you're all getting ready for the fall coming here eventually. I know the fun season has started for those that like football stuff. So, and I think, Mike, I'm pretty impressed with Michigan's record so far. Not bad. So we won't talk about Michigan State's record so far. That's not so good. So,
but has Michigan faced a real opponent yet?
Well, Rutgers was pretty good. They were 3-0 when they faced them, but I mean, the first three were kind of. I don't understand the scheduling. They get these cupcakes, and but I guess you got to get the team ready for the season, for the conference season, and that's now. They're in the conference play now. So
things are going well, and we're looking forward to the show with Bill today. So this is all going to be awesome.
And it's I represent the dark side of the force. We're above the 0.3 THC level, 420 post, and got some news to announce today. We'll do that later in the show. At this time, I'm going to introduce William Shaw, who is working with me in Oklahoma right now, primarily, where we're trying to develop some programs there so that that the issue we're just talking about the safe banking act before the show started and what the ramifications would be for that. Anyway, I get an echo here.
Yeah, I don't know where. I just muted Blaine for a second. I don't know if that's from there.
All right, dude, that's it. Yep, that was it. Okay, sorry about that, folks. So anyway, and also Bill can, I believe, right now offer credit cards to cannabis dispensaries. I know that's pretty much a cash business right now, and there's been a lot of robberies lately because the bad guys know there's a lot of cash in those places, and of course they steal product as well. And then he has some other programs he's going to be talking about, but instead of me going in and messing up or mis-explaining it, I'll let him do that. Go ahead there, Bill.
Oh, you're muted, Bill.
You're muted, Bill. Oh, can I unmute?
There you go. Now you can hear me.
Sorry about live shows, right?
Thank you for the invitation, Mike and Blaine, David. Appreciate it very much. So what would you like to know? I am basically a credit card guy, merchant processing. I've been doing that since 2015. And I've been doing it, obviously, not in the cannabis market, but with the merchants here in southeastern Michigan, and been pretty successful at it. I like merchant processing because it's the kind of business where you build relationships, and it's kind of nice when a guy is working with you and you can handle that aspect of his business and keep him informed and talk to him and make him rest assured that he's getting great rates and taking care of his money. Because the problem in the credit card business is whether it's a debit card or a credit card, there's a POS system study that we saw. 83% of the people that shop at a retailer will use some form of a credit card, whether it's debit based or Apple Pay, Walmart Pay, Samsung Pay. So it's
there's a lot of venues that won't take cash now.
I haven't run into too many of those, but
if you go to a hockey game or a concert, something like that, those venues, U of M, the big house, they don't take cash.
Well, and that's good because basically they don't want all of that money being floated around in a vendor's booth or in the concession stands. They take cash. It's a kind of thing where they get the money the following morning, and that issue is really transparent with the large dispensaries because up until we came on the scene, there weren't many options to them, and they were handling a ton of cash, a lot of cash, in some cases thousands and thousands of dollars. And so that's just you don't want to do that if you own one of these places. You want to keep your cash to a minimum, and we think that we have a pretty good solution for these guys.
Mhm. So what differentiates you from a standard credit card company? What makes you different? Why is it special for cannabis?
Well, first of all, the cannabis, the, the cannabis processing is quite a bit different. All right. As everybody knows, cannabis is a controlled substance. All right. And what happens is in a credit card transaction, you have to have a sponsoring bank. All right. Every transaction has a bank. That way, the retailer gets their money in the following morning. That's called next day funding. So a lot of times these banks don't want to go against they're federally chartered banks, and they can't take it because it's a controlled substance. So one of the vendors that we have been working with, and it's kind of unique, and it's a credit card transaction, but it's what they call a binary transaction, and that means two things happen. Okay, so when the consumer goes in and makes the transaction, they could use a debit-based transaction, and the money would not go through the credit card system, but directly to the bank. Okay, generally, the retailer has to round that up. If it's a $62 transaction, they have to round it up because they only deal in $5 increments, so it's $65. But our solution that we're offering is basically a binary transaction. So the consumer goes in, and what they do is they fund a wallet. Okay, a wallet. That money is held in that wallet for about 3 days, and then sent to Visa and MasterCard to handle the transaction. So it's a wallet type of transaction, completely legal, completely endorsed by Visa and MasterCard. And the retailer doesn't get next day funding, but basically there's a little lag time when we set up a customer. It takes 5 days for them to get their money. And so basically for a transaction on Monday, they'll see those funds on Saturday morning. So it's called a binary transaction, funding a wallet. And that seems, wow, that's really kind of crazy. It's not, because it's basically the same technology as Apple Pay, Walmart Pay, or Samsung Pay. That's really what we're doing. Okay. Now, it's completely legal. Visa and MasterCard are looking at it, and they endorse it, because I'm going to tell you something. This is a $5 billion a year industry. Okay. A lot of it's going on in the state of Michigan. Visa and MasterCard, there's not many industries on the horizon in the American economy that have this much potential. So Visa and MasterCard are looking at this real closely. And for right now, it's a really nice solution, completely legal and very easily run. And it's using the technology such as Apple Pay that's already been well established. A binary transaction, and we can do it better than anybody else. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. What kind of fees?
So, Bill, one of the things that came up with all this Safe Banking Act and everything else going on right now, Congress is going to be shut down and everything, but government's going to shut down. Hopefully not. But one of the comments I saw from some of the congressmen and senators is that they don't even feel the Safe Banking Act even needs to be worried about. They think, in their world, that everything's fine out here. For the states where it's legal to have recreational and medical, they feel that the banks have been able to make a workaround and not a problem. So what's your take on that, Bill? What do you think?
Well, I hope they pass it, because basically I work with all sizes of dispensaries. Okay. And the big dispensaries, multi-locations and multi-state operators, they're in pretty good shape. They have access to that. But you're talking about the mom and pop type dispensary, a guy that opened this with a buddy of his. mortgaged everything they owned to open the stuff. There was a lot of expenses. Those guys could use a nice bank account where they could write checks and don't have to worry about large fees and things like that to pay their vendors, pay their employees. Okay. That's the big thing, is that, if you've got an employees working, and basically, you tell them that they have a cannabis employment, sometimes they have a little trouble getting loans. So basically, the Safe Banking Act would help the employees and the owners because they'll have a place where they can deposit their money quickly, safely, and have access to it to operate their businesses. That's why I think it's important. David, can I go back to your question? Okay, you asked me what are the fees, right? And I didn't answer that. Okay, Blaine, did I answer your question? I mean, that's my take. Okay.
Yep.
David, I was hoping somebody had asked me that question, because that's a really great question. And the reason it's a great question is because this basically is a consumer fee operation. In other words, the consumer absorbs the transaction cost. There's no cost to the retailer. Okay. In a normal transaction, we have a term for that in the credit card business. We call that a cash discount. Now, that's kind of stupid, and I never did understand it, but it's a cash discount.
Kind of in
That,
reverse.
yeah. So if the retailer takes our situation, takes our solution, basically, he's not going to have any cost involved. It's going to be passed on to the consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you reference this technology, it's also the way cryptocurrency works, where you hold your crypto in a wallet and then you transfer between wallets. So do you see this? One of the benefits of going with crypto is you don't have a middleman. There are still transaction costs, but do you see, crypto is moving into the cannabis space?
Not really. I don't think that's to be honest with you guys, the solution that we're going to be providing today may not be the solution 18 to 24 months from now. If they reclassify the controlled substance, you're going to see a more traditional line of credit card processing. And quite frankly, it's got to be in the works. I go back to the statement I made earlier, the fact that this is such a huge industry. There is a lot of money being transferred, from in the retail end of it. And quite frankly, Visa and MasterCard want their piece of that. So they're going to do everything they can to enhance a declassification, and banks will support that, and banks will support the transaction, because every transaction has to be supported by a bank.
Also, why don't you talk about your PayFac? That's something I didn't know anything about until I started talking to you. And why don't you explain that?
Well, yeah, I want to be as brief as possible, but I got into credit card processing. I sort of got out of the truck equipment industry, and the only skill I ever had was I was a pretty good writer, and I was writing some copywriting for a lot of people, and basically got into writing copy for a processing company that was looking for agents 3 years before the deployment of EMV. That's European Master Card. And what that really means, the little chip in the card, okay? And that took the liability away from the merchants, okay? So what happened is they were looking for agents to increase their book of business, and they hired me to go out and find one. So anyways, make a long story short, I didn't want to do it, and the guy talked me into it. And so I've been a soccer referee for over 36 years, and said to myself, I don't know a whole lot about this processing, but I knew a little bit about soccer, and I knew all of the soccer clubs in southeastern Michigan and in the central part of the state. And I said, man, these all take credit cards. So what happened is I took the job and started working and ran into enrollment companies. Enrollment companies are the people that basically sign up the kids. When you go on the website of the local soccer club, and you put your money in and you do that, that's all done by an enrollment company. So consequently, I figured this out and developed a program where I had 3 enrollment software companies, and I made them what they call a PayFact. Okay. And if you don't understand what a PayFact is, it stands for payment facilitation. And basically that is a Square. Square is a very big processing company in this country. They started working with small independent artisans. You go to a fair on the weekends in the town, and basically, you went through and you use your credit card to buy whatever the little arts and crafts things that people made, and that was usually a Square. That's called a PayFact. They're the master merchant and had a lot of sub merchants. So basically, I took this PayFact concept to the enrollment companies. They basically were the master merchants, and the soccer clubs were the sub merchants. And the fact is, I split the commission with them, and it worked really, really well. Okay, until the pandemic hit and there was no soccer. Nobody was doing anything. But yeah, that's what a PayFact is. It's a Square-like program, and I am developing that with our vendor, and we're working with grow operations all around the country, developing them as PayFacts, and then they'll go out and they'll work with the individual growers or the retailers, and they'll offer them special incentives, delayed billing, and all kinds of advantages for them to use their PayFact, which is going to be credit card processing. We don't have to go out and call on those people. We'll call on the growers and work with them to develop their own PayFact with a number of grow operations retailers, since they already have the relationship. I don't quite know if you understand what I'm saying, so ask me any questions. I apologize for not coming as completely clear on it, but it's a PayFact for growers to work with retail dispensaries all across the country.
So in essence, iHemp Michigan, we're a nonprofit trade association. We could become a PayFac, and then CBD shops or growers.
Let's talk. We can do it. And here's the deal. Okay, so you do a PayFact. Number one, basically, there's no underwriting on the part of your customers. Okay, you've already established that because you are the master merchant. So all you do is you simply take their checking account and routing number, set up an account, give them access to the app, and they start taking payments, whether it's on a phone, if it's large enough, or a retail operation. We can send them a credit card machine and they can start using the machine. The advantage is one guy servicing a whole number of retail locations, and there's no minimum, there's no maximum, and there's no hassle setting them up, because basically you grant them access to your account as a sub merchant to your customers.
Now,
very
who's
easily
watching our account as the PayFac for compliance issues? Because you hear that all the time in the even the CBD industry, where somebody's website was shut down by PayPal or Stripe or Square. Those are the 3 big ones they find in the space.
That's because they weren't honest to begin with. Okay, I know what you're talking about, and I know dispensaries that had a Square account, and Square, until they found out about it, basically they were running payments through that. They didn't tell them what they were doing. Square just said, okay. They don't really check them, but they do an audit as they're established. But if you establish the fact that you're a PayFac and you're a PayFac with cannabis, then that's not really a problem, because basically you're setting up, you're a cannabis PayFac merchant. And the company that we're working with, they will do periodic audits on their on the accounts. Okay, Mike asked me one time, he said, well, what can happen? I said, well, it's pretty easy to do, but here's what happens. Sometimes a guy will say, okay, I got an account. I'm going to give myself a raise, right? So basically, he charges X number of dollars on his PayFac account, right? And then the money's deposited in his account, right? He basically wrote himself a loan to a credit card. You cannot do that, okay? That's a big no-no, okay? And that'll get you shut down. So, but because we're already in the business, you're not going to be shut down because Square and Stripe, they're not in the business. We are. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, we're kind of excited about that. That's going to be a nice little addition to our business that we're developing, and we're going to do it better than anybody else because we've had a lot of experience doing PayFacs.
Well, something like that could help us. We're trying to find a way to survive and keep things going here. The industry on the industrial hemp side, is still emerging. It's had some rough starts. But it's going to get there. And we do have a growing number of CBD shops throughout the state that are transacting business that we could approach. That'd be interesting.
Yep, we can do it.
And then iHemp would get a
Very easy.
percentage of the action for handling the sale, right, Bill? Did you hear me? Am I muted?
Well, no, you're not muted, Mike. So, Bill, what Mike was asking, if we set up a PFAC, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
PayFac.
PAYFAC. It stands for Payment Facilitation.
Okay. So if we're the facilitator of this funding source, we would get, maybe a couple basis points on it.
It's going to be a little higher. It's basically a flat rate transaction, okay? But the fact is, there's no minimum or maximum. You are the master merchant, okay? If it's a CB shop, they don't have to worry about, minimums and that thing. It's basically a flat rate on all rates. It's just the same thing as Square, okay? But they work on a flat rate, okay? Now, can I talk a little bit about pricing?
You bet.
Okay. Credit card pricing is kind of unique, and I got some things. I got a couple of props here that I want to show you. Okay.
Yeah, you can share your screen at any time.
So let's say a flat rate. Okay. Now, if it's a credit card processing, did you know that every card issue has a prearranged rate? You can go to a website, and if you've got like Michigan State MSU Credit Union credit card, or you've got a General Motors credit card, or you've got just a regular old Capital rate, all of those cards are prearranged of what they're going to run. Okay. And credit card guys like me, we talk about in the flat rate end of the business, we talk about qualified rates. And I guess it's really just simple to say there's different tiers, okay? And it's based on the risk of that, or if the credit card has any incentives to it, like you got the cash back, if you go on to Capital One and you see Jen talking about what's in your wallet, that's a cash back. That is a tier 3 card, okay? So here's the deal. In a flat rate situation, and one of the reasons that credit card guys have such a bad rep in the industry, they'll go out and they'll say, I don't care what you're saying, but I can beat your best rate. Okay. So what happens is what that guy is talking about is actually, I don't know if you can see this, but this is like tier 1, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. This is the bucket, right? So if that rate is like 1.5 or something like that, keep that in mind, 1.5. That's like tier 1, right? Okay. So that's what that guy's saying. I'll beat your best rate on all those tier 1s. But here's what people don't understand about credit card guys. The processor gets to decide what the rate is. So let's say that tier 1 rate, okay, is 1.5. But what happens is my customer doesn't know what I'm doing, right? So I'll take this credit card, put it in that tier 2, right? So that tier 2 might have a rate of 2.75, 3 points, right? That's a big difference from 1.5, right?
Mhm.
So we decide that's tier 3. This is like the Capital One. I don't know if you can see that. So basically what happens is the processor gets to decide what the rate is. And so sometimes you'll go into it and say, wow, we hooked up with this one company and basically we got our statement 6 months later. We're paying more for credit card processing than we ever did, right? I don't understand it because the guy told us we got the best deal, right? Well, what he was talking about, the best deal on tier 1. That's what he was really talking about, because basically he's not going to leave any money on the table. What I do, and the secret to my success, is we have a pricing structure that's called Interchange Plus. In other words, when you run a credit card across the interchange, or a Visa and MasterCard on the rails, okay, we call that the software that we run the card is done what we call on the rails. Basically, we take that card and we put 25 basis points on the card, okay, and that's our profit on the transaction. So that card that's in tier 1, if it's run at 1.5%, we actually run that card at 1.75%, take 25 basis points and explain that to him, show that guy in his statements. And basically we could make a little bit more money, but I've been doing this for 10 years and been pretty successful. And I've had customers that stuck with me for 10 years simply because we've been, quite frankly, operating with integrity over some of these guys that we call in this industry turn and burn. They come in and they yell they got the best rates, and all of a sudden you never see that person again. So we've been doing a pretty good job with it, and we do interchange plus pricing, which is the fairest way to run cards. And we explain to our customers who've got to make a couple of bucks on this, and they understand that, and they're in it. And we can provide the service and provide the insight and show them what the statements look like. And it's been a pretty good run for us. So flat rate pricing will work with a PayFac, but it won't work with a regular credit card merchant account. The best way to do that is interchange plus pricing, and then you avoid the tier structure on what they are.
So
And
if I had wanted to move forward with your PayFac, how would that work? And what would the fees be? Or how much would they make?
Well, we would do a what we're doing in Oklahoma is we're doing a interchange plus rate with them. Okay, so basically it's the flat rate plus we're going to tack on 25 basis points, and that's how we're going to do it, and that's fair for them and fair for us, and we've got some things going on in terms of a PayFac with our Oklahoma customer, and like I said, we could probably make more money, but we wouldn't last. People will get very upset and give you a reason to change, and we don't want that to happen. We want to provide service to them, and so.
Bill, are you mostly in Michigan, or are you throughout the whole United States?
Any questions on that, guys?
I don't think.
Bill, are you through Michigan, or are you throughout the whole United States?
I'm sorry?
Are you in Michigan or the whole United States?
Well, we can legally operate in every state in the union and Canada, okay, with our dispensary business, and we're just getting started with this program, and we're doing Oklahoma, Michigan. We hope to move into New Jersey, and we hope to move into Illinois. I have 3 different companies that I work with. Obviously, the PayFac is done through a company called the Martech Group. I have another company called Desert Creek Ventures, and Desert Creek Ventures. One of the things about credit card people is they can get loans on their credit card sales, but it's an awful loan. It's disgusting. It's basically a loan against receivables. and it's pretty much automatic. If a person needs $10,000, they can get an advance from the credit card company on their receivables, but they charge them an ungodly rate. I mean, like 28%. I only done in 10 years. I've only done one, and the customer insisted on doing it because that's the only way they could get the money. But I won't do it anymore. Okay, so we formed a company called Desert Creek, and we have access to private cap money that we can help hemp dealers, we can help dispensaries, we can help growers with some funding, and that's been a fun part of the business that we like to do. And the last thing I say to you is that we working with these retailers, we have the Corona POS system, which in my opinion is the best system out there. It's a completely cloud-based system and dedicated hardware, all touchscreen technology. It's not an iPad. It's not a modified Android pad. It is a complete touchscreen with merchant services tied into it. So, and we can do that with the PayFax. So when we're walking to a customer, we can say, okay, here's our POS system, here's the merchant processing, and handle both those needs. And if they ever need excess capital to expand the business, we hope to they'll give us a call.
Excellent.
And that's what we do.
We're talking about, the situation with dispensaries and hemp and related businesses, but what about other regular consumer stores and stuff? Is your program competitive with them?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, I spent the first 10 years. I spent the first 10 years doing this. Okay, I still have a number of retail outlets. I have a POS system in a very large bowling alley, and do their pro shop, do their restaurant, and do their counter sales. Okay, and very, very. I only work with a couple of companies. When you're a guy like me that's been around for a long time and you have a lot of customers, I get, a lot of inquiries if I'd like to use other processors. But I kind of pick and choose the people I work with because, like you said, you want to be competitive. And like I said, we're not greedy. We use an interchange plus approach that allows us to make a couple bucks in terms of profit and doesn't gouge the customer. Because I'm going to tell you something, you walk in and do this, and that customer 6 months later, and it happened to me, I'm speaking from experience, and goodness gracious, they got rid of you, even though they were friends of mine. They said, Bill, it's too expensive. I didn't know what I was doing back in those days, but they get rid of me because I wasn't competitive. So to answer your question, I think we do a good job with customers outside of cannabis and in cannabis, to be honest with you.
So you had mentioned that this is a consumer-driven fee. So how much does it add to a consumer's purchase if they do?
What are we talking about? Like on a regular credit card, or?
Yeah. You were saying that for the businesses, that the fee is picked up by the consumer. So
the cash discount.
Well, that's the cannabis. Now that's a cash discount program. That's totally different.
Okay.
That's
So
totally
different.
different. Okay. That's a cannabis dealer. Okay. If you're asking me what the transaction rates are, remember I told you every card is different. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know what the average is, but we tend to put 25 basis points. So if 25 basis points, then it's 2.65% on $100. That's going to cost that customer $2.65. Okay. On $1,000, it's going to be 26. On 10, you can just take. On average, we work on interchange plus pricing. We don't use those buckets. We don't try to gouge the customers. That's what happens. These guys, we as a processor get to pick how we're going to run that because that's the way we set it up. So those rates can be very, very high, and that's when the customer starts shopping around and says, we got to do something about our credit card sales.
Mm-hmm.
I got a bar up on Mackinac one time. And he told me what he was paying in processing fees, and I said, seems a little. I didn't want to add fire on fire, but basically, I showed him that his a bulk of his cards could be tier 1, but they were being run as tier 2 and tier 3 cards. And when I showed him that, he was pleasantly surprised.
I'll bet he wasn't too pleasant. He was surprised to talk to you, but not happy about the last guy. All right.
Well, that's called turn and burn. Guys come in and they scream to the top of their lungs, "Oh, I'm cheaper," and people, give them a chance, and then they end up, and sometimes, you come in and talk to these people, and they say, "Oh my goodness, wow, we appreciate it." But I've had some of my customers been with me 10 years, so I feel like we're still doing something right.
Very good. All right. Anything
Well, let's
else?
talk about a PayFac sometime, David. Call me anytime. I'll hook you up.
Yeah, we'll kick it around. We'll have to get we need another board meeting. So yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Excellent.
Well, you
And,
guys, it's been great.
just-
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we do, and if there's anything that we can do to help the customers and the people out there, we're more than happy to answer any questions. They don't have to use us, but we can educate them. And like you said, Dave, in your opening, you want to educate and you want to keep people informed. And, that's been my approach to credit card processing. I just, a lot of times people call me and I don't end up working with them, but they're a lot smarter after talking to me.
Why don't you give how people can contact you, Bill? Give an email address or phone number or whatever you want to share.
Well, I can put my email. It's bill@themartechgroup.com or bill@Desert Creek Ventures if they're looking for money. And my phone number, I put it in the private chat, or you guys can publish it on your website. I'll send it to you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes when we publish this.
Okay, great.
Very good.
Well,
All
thanks,
right,
guys. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Sounds great. Well, let's move on to the news. Mike Brennan, why don't you bring us up to date? I saw a headline, another $275 million in cannabis sales in Michigan?
273.3 in August to be exact. And so that was about $400,000 less than July. But the point being is now we're moving on a roughly $75 million rate, have now for the last 8 months. And we're going into the fall where people, of course, no one really knows what they're going to happen. But I mean, it's consistent and it's moving forward. It's not declining. So we're on a little over $3.2 billion run rate for the year if these monthly averages continue to hold up. So that makes us pretty high up on the scale. And of course, our buddies at Cranes Detroit just published a story a couple of weeks back saying per capita, which is how many people live in the state, Michigan has the highest sales per capita in the country. So our consumers are buying a lot of cannabis. And of course, the other thing that happens is we're a big tourist state, all 4 seasons. And I know from talking to dispensaries within 50 or so miles of the borders with Ohio, Indiana, even up north with Minnesota and Wisconsin,
Yeah.
that about a third of their sales is not Michigan residents. But a lot of them report is that a visitor will come in, say, from Indiana, where there's nothing going on. Ohio has just voted to go adult legal, but it took a while for them to get up to speed. But for instance, South Bend in Indiana, those students there can come cross the border into Michigan, and they spend the night, and they get a double because there's a certain maximum you can buy, and so they go ahead and buy a double, spend the weekend, and then take it back to Indiana with them. So yeah, that's really helping to drive sales. It isn't hurting. Um, Also, on a sad note, which we all may have heard by now, I certainly it impacted me and my business. Uh, the Michigan pioneer Rick Thompson died of colon cancer a little over a week ago. His funeral is on Saturday. I got up there for the visitation on Friday and talked to his mother and his sister and his wife. And Rick certainly was one of the real great pioneers. And Redemption Foundation has just announced on Facebook, well, earlier today, that they're raising money for the Rick Thompson Memorial Fund, and that money then would go to the Redemption Foundation, which was founded by Ryan Basor, who was in jail for 4 years. Even though he was legal in the state, he wasn't legal federally, and he got busted. And so, what he does with a lot of that, most of that money, in fact, is he helps other folks that are in jail or get out of jail, or they help them expunge their record. If it's not a violent kind of cannabis bust kind of thing, they work to expunge their record to get that felony off their record. And so it's a worthy cause. And so if people want to donate to that, they can go to the Redemption Foundation and make a donation in Rick's name. So I highly encourage folks to check that out.
Excellent. Yeah, I went to the funeral, and I found out that Rick's sister, her husband, Tammy Valley, her husband Don Valley, I know him. He walked up and shook my hand. It's like, what are you doing here? It's a small world, but so Don Valley was a member of the Optimist Club I was part of for a long time.
Well, Rick was my co-host on 420 Post Live, so we worked together for a couple of years. And so he was gone in 90 days. It was just, and part of the reason Rick was, I don't know what's the word I want, but he didn't like needles. He didn't like doctors. He never got a colonoscopy. He was 57 years old. And that's what ended up killing him, was he stage 4 colon cancer. So I would encourage anybody over 45 to get in there and get that checked, because it's a real quiet, slow-moving cancer. But if it gets a real foothold, I don't know whether it's not curable, but very difficult to cure if it gets a real foothold on your system. So
yeah, it's actually, I had stage 3 colon cancer in 2021, and I made it known, and I've talked to a lot of people about getting their colonoscopy, because if I hadn't have caught it, I would have been in the same boat as Rick. So yeah, it's important. Get that colonoscopy. Must have.
So that's my news, both good and bad, and we'll keep moving forward. But the good news is that the industry in Michigan, and as opposed, a lot of other states have plateaued or have declined. We're not doing either of those things here. We're still growing rapidly, and we're on a really nice, baby. Yes, everybody's smoking their brains out, and for those who don't know, this some taxing authority gets 16% of every dollar spent. And for instance, when that money was dispersed earlier this year, Ann Arbor, which has 40 dispensaries in a town of 125,000 people, received $2 million for their budget. So I think that a lot of these smaller communities that have been reluctant to come on board, when each dispensary is getting you a little over $50,000 in tax money, they might rethink that.
Yeah, that's some serious money. Serious money. So let me, Blaine, we're going to save you for last.
Okay.
I just want to touch base, so I get your colonoscopy. But I went and saw a 91-year-old dude just rock Pine Knob last Friday. Willie Nelson performed the Outlaw Music Festival. And he also performed with a 75-year-old Bill Weir from the Grateful Dead. So these guys are still doing it Bill, going into his 8th, decade, and Willie at 91. And Willie's guitar is just amazing. He actually has a hole worn behind the screens. The wood's gone. he's got this old beat up guitar. Yeah, I mean, if that thing could tell stories, it'd be amazing. So it was fun to watch those guys still rocking at that age. It gives me some inspiration.
Yeah, and you're just a whippersnapper. You're only like 60, right?
Yeah. I'm helping out with 2 hockey leagues, skating 3-4 times a week. So I'm trying to do what I can to keep moving.
Yeah, you need to get Bill's payfac system for your hockey league.
No, I don't. I like cash.
Ah, okay. All right, never mind.
Cash goes so nice. It matches almost any color, folds nicely.
Yeah. Try and hold on to it as much as possible. It all goes back out anyhow. Doesn't matter. But all right. So Blaine, you are fighting that same challenge we're talking
I am a little bit, but let's talk about a couple other things. First, we'll get a little news in. So, interesting study identifies safe CBD intake levels. Came out this last week. Charlotte's Web Canopy Growth analysis identifies safe CBD intake levels for supplements. So there's a lot more to this, but I'll give you the cliff notes. The upper CBD intake levels ranging from 70 milligrams to 160 milligrams per day for dietary supplements are acceptable and do not harm the liver, says a new scientific review commissioned by Charlotte's Web. So,
very cool.
So a lot of stuff going on to move CBD forward, and let's hope that we get some legislation so that we can stop all this stuff that's going around in every state trying to make a different rule and different ruling on where industrial hemp is, if it's legal or not. So that was good news, I thought, that came out this week. So a lot of things going around as far as projects, building projects with hemp material. That's still going forward. Very soon, we're going to have a little program dedicated to the guys down in Fenville that they will call it Tire House. And Jesse's Castle, Canary Homes, Safe Homes, we call it. That's moving forward very nicely. So we're really excited to see where all of these projects are moving forward. So real happy to see that. And, things planned the right way. There's some talk about possibly some being able to do some processing here in the state. So hopefully we'll keep you all informed as that move forwards as well. Once that happens, we know that right behind that will be the contracts for the farmers. And as we always say, it all starts with the farmer, because if the farmer doesn't grow it, then we can't process it and make it into the products that we need. So
yeah, but right now it starts with the investment banker to get the processing going.
yeah. So normally we have a recipe at this time of the show, but this week I didn't get a recipe together. I wanted to inform everybody what's going on and give you a message to a public service announcement kind of thing. August 31st, I got diagnosed with throat cancer. Mine is from the HPV virus, so the human papillomavirus, sexually transmitted disease. Probably most of us have it in our system. Just because the way things are and the way life is. And for some reason, I turned 66 a week ago, and decided that it wanted to come forward and be in my life right now. So mine started with some swallowing issues that I had, and one test led to another test, and finally we figured out what it was. Mine's very small right now. It's a stage 2. And there are many treatments to take for this. First of all, I want to give a shout out to 2 people that have helped me out quite a bit. Michael Toohey, with his medicines that he has and he comes up with. Michael, thank you very much, and it is helping. I want you to know that. And then also Steve Scott, Craft Hemp Company out of Midland. Both of them have supplied me with some of their remedies, and I'm taking those as well as the treatment. My treatment is 7 weeks, 35 radiation treatments, and 7 chemo treatments. So 5 days a week for the next 7 weeks. I had my second treatment today. So tomorrow is my first day of doing any chemo. So I feel good, obviously, right now, still early in this whole thing. But my plea is here for everybody is, if you have any kind of medical situation, right, don't let it drag on. If it's something unusual, something, hasn't been there, make sure you get in and talk to your doctor about it. Head and neck cancer right now is one of the leading and most rapidly increasing cancers that they're finding. So again, if you're having an issue, just get in and get it checked out, get it caught early. Dave's was able to catch early, and Dave's still with us and doing well, and I will be too. Just got to get through these next few weeks. So that's kind of what's going on in my world right now. Becky's going to be my caregiver for a while, and we're just going to walk through this together like we have other things in our life. And years from now, we'll still be doing stuff. So that's my little talk today.
All right. So as a reminder, give to the redemptionfoundation.org in memory of Rick Thompson, who refused to go to the doctor.
That's
and
for
so we're having
sure.
a memorial. So there's your public service warning.
Yeah.
But man, we need more people like Rick to keep the pressure on, make things happen.
It's going to be missed, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
All the memorials that I've seen have been quite. You touched a lot of people. Sometimes you don't know everybody you touch. So
Yeah.
Certainly have.
All right. Well, until the next time, peace and love.
Okay. See everybody.
Bye, everybody.